Welcome to the No Fall Zone, the podcast that takes you inside the minds of FWT snowboarders and skiers. I'm your host, Dave Mailman, and together with longtime FWT photographer Dom Daer, we're going to lift the curtain and give you a glimpse into what life is really like for the Freeride World Tour riders. This podcast is made possible by Peak Performance. Thank you, guys.
3, 2, 1, drop in.
Our fourth No Fall Zone guest this season caught the contest bug racing boardercross as a teenager in British Columbia. She progressed quickly, becoming the top Canadian on the FIS World Cup snowboardcross circuit before discovering the joys of riding the backcountry. Freeride World Tour Rookie of the Year in 2021, she had to re-qualify through the FWT Challenger Finals in 2022. After winning 3 out of 4 events in her third season on tour, the 28-year-old is now the reigning snowboard women world champion. This is Katie Anderson. Katie Anderson, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
It's a pleasure. So, you're the reigning world champion, but you're out injured. Tell us about your injury. Having something to do with your ACL?
Yeah, I done a little bit of damage to my knee. I've torn my ACL and my meniscus and potentially some other small tendons. But yeah, just waiting on knee surgery now.
And were you riding or did you just slip on the ice?
No, I wasn't riding and I didn't slip on ice. I bought a snowmobile this year and everyone said, "You're going to hurt yourself on that snowmobile." And I said, "No, I'm not." And then day one out, I just made a mistake and I hurt myself on the snowmobile.
Oh, no. I heard that you had just got a new snowmobile and a new pickup truck, I believe. And yeah, first day out on the sled and it all went pear-shaped. How frustrating is that?
It was frustrating for sure. I didn't think it was so bad initially. And I was hoping it would just be a couple of weeks off. And yeah, it's frustrating, but it's kind of part of learning something new and that's okay.
There we go. Lessons learned in life. Unfortunately, there's lots of them to be learned as we go along the way. So you're in Golden right now to see your doctor. Talking about frustration again, is it frustrating to have the tour in town and not be competing, or is it just good to catch up with everyone?
It's definitely a mix of emotions. Yeah, I came up yesterday to meet the surgeon. And yesterday my thoughts were definitely swirling, like wishing that I was here to compete. But now that I'm here, it's really cool just to be up here and cheer all my friends along and get to see everyone, the staff and the athletes. It's been really nice.
It looks like you've been getting lots of support from riders and fans online. It's got to make you feel good.
Totally, yeah. I've had so many people reach out with kind words or their similar experiences about recovery from the ACL. And yeah, it's been really heartwarming to have so much support.
So what does your season look like now? I'm assuming it's going to be full of rehab and lots of physiotherapy and time off work as well?
Yeah, this has really shooken up my life a little bit. I have knee surgery scheduled for March 12th, so doing a lot of prehab work before then to make sure that I'm strong and ready for surgery. And then, I've had to take a year off my job. So, the year's kind of wide open, but my main focus is snowboarding and recovering from this so that I can be back strong, hopefully, for next year.
Cool. And so you are one of those many FWT riders that has a real job on the side. Tell us a little bit about what you do when you're not riding or in the off season.
Yeah, for the past 2 years, I've been the camp director of Columbia Outdoor School and Blue Lake Camp. So it's a kids' summer camp, but I essentially work from April till December. And it's a sleepaway camp in the woods. And I stay up there 5 or 6 days a week. And we usually see about 2,000 kids come through our doors each year, which is awesome.
Oh, wow. And is that, where exactly is that? Is that in Jaffrey or is that in Fernie or?
So it's actually, it's near Canal Flats, which is a small town, like 2 hours from Golden, south.
Okay. All right, cool. So that's a great segue into, since we're talking about kids, tell me about how it was for you as a kid growing up in Jaffrey, British Columbia. You're pretty much on skis as soon as you could walk, but then you moved on to snowboarding around age 6. How is it that you didn't? What was the logical choice between skiing and ice skating? Could you become a hockey player?
I had a few years where I really, really wanted to play hockey. And at that point, I'd already started snowboarding, and snowboarding, hockey, two expensive sports. And my parents said, you can snowboard or you can play hockey. I was like, well, obviously I'm going to snowboard.
Sounds good. So, and you have a younger sister. Robin's your younger sister, correct? Or are you the youngest? I couldn't quite sort that out on Instagram.
Yeah, I have. That's okay. I have a younger sister named Robin, and then an older sister, Michelle, and an older brother named Joseph as well.
Ah, okay. There we go. I thought there was just the two of you. Well, now, see, I'm learning things already. So how was it being a kid in Jaffrey in quite a large family then at the end of the day?
Yeah, it was really awesome. Jaffrey's a really small town. I think the official population, I looked it up the other day, I think there's 900 people, but quite spread out. And it was an awesome place to grow up. And I spent a ton of time outside. And then, my parents took us skiing every weekend. And it was just like the love that my parents had for the mountains really transferred to me and Robin as well, which was so awesome.
And was your local resort Fernie? Because there's quite a few close by. So what was your go-to mountain as a kid?
Yeah, I'm super lucky that there's lots of great resorts around, but Fernie was our go-to. And then sometimes we'd go to Kimberley. My cousins would come visit and we'd get to go to Kimberley, and it's also a super fun resort, a great place for families to ski.
Awesome. And were you competitive as a kid? I saw that you played baseball or softball. I know you skateboard and mountain bike a bit now, but we'll get onto that later on. But okay, sports wise, obviously skiing, hockey. What else were you doing as a kid, and maybe with your brothers and sisters?
As a kid, snowboarding was my main love. Everyone knew that I loved snowboarding. But I played soccer and softball. What else did I do? I ran cross country running. Kind of did a little bit of everything, I guess. Yeah. All
right. So, but were you competitive? Because I know, as a boardercross racer and now obviously as a free rider, if you don't have that competitive urge, you're not going to become a national champion or a world champion as you've done in both sports. So did you have the competition bug as a kid, or is that something that kind of came a little bit later on?
Totally. I was definitely a competitive kid. But mostly with myself. And there was a softball league in town. That was fun. But I didn't really compete seriously until I was in grade 12 of high school. So
exactly. Well, that's a perfect segue. Again, thank you. You're making this one real easy for me. In high school was when you first started your boardercross racing in 2012. A year later, you'd already earned a spot on the British Columbia team. I was going to say the national team, but it was the It was the provincial team. But by 2015, so we're 3 years into it, you're already placing third at the FIS Junior World Championships in China. And that same season, you're first place at the Junior and Senior Canadian Nationals. So you, once you started competing in boardercross, things really happened quickly for you.
Yeah, once I started racing boardercross, things really, that was like became my main focus. And yeah, things progressed pretty quickly there.
Where did the term speedy gal come from?
Truthfully, I'm not totally sure. I think at some point, me and my friend Anna, she raced for the US. I don't know. At some point, we just started calling each other speedy gals, and it really, it really kicked off from there.
All right, I just found that funny in all your hashtag speedy gal. In all posts. You progressed quickly, and from 2015 to 2017 was kind of your high point. You had 9 podiums on the North American circuit. Didn't look like internationally on the World Cups you were quite as successful, but if my research is correct, it was because you had a really rough patch with crashes, and you went a year and a half without even finishing a race. So tell me a little bit about the highs and lows of your time on the Canadian national team and on the North American and the International World Cup circuit.
Yeah, I feel like 2015 was a big year for me. I came third at Junior Worlds, and was the senior and junior champion in Canada. And then 2016 I made the national team, which was really exciting and a big change. And I wanted to prove that I deserved to be there. And in one of the first training camps of the year, I had a big crash and I broke 4 ribs and I had a really bad concussion. And I pushed myself to come back to sport. In hindsight, too soon. I wasn't recovered from the concussion and was back snowboarding in January. And at the first World Cup of the year, I had another big crash, a big concussion, and I broke my pelvis. And yeah, kind of from there, I had a rough couple of years. I really, the pelvis was obviously a big injury, but the concussions were the bigger thing. They really limited me, and it was a long recovery from that and a big mental struggle. And then once I got back from that, I had a year where I was doing NORAMs instead of World Cups. And I was really trying to get back on the World Cup circuit and trying to, push through some pain and prove that I could be there. And then my last year on the World Cups was 2017, 2018, I believe. And I was still struggling with stuff from the concussions, and I just, kept having some bad luck. I bruised my heels and really couldn't walk, and I kept trying to snowboard. And it was kind of just a jumble of trying to get better, but not giving myself enough time to fully recover.
Not really, managing it. In October 2018, you posted on Instagram, as a little refresher even for you with all those head injuries, with everyone heading over to Europe to start the season, it's finally sinking in for me that I won't be competing this year. I've made the tough decision to take a year off from being a speedy gal to focus on doing me and getting rid of my headaches. After having my best year ever last season, minus missing a few races, it was devastating to no longer be on the national team, but such is the reality of a sport that bases success only on results. Thanks to everyone for your support along the way. I'm not letting this deter me from my goals, and I'm still working hard to reach them, but I'm taking some time to be head bonk free, knock on wood, ride some POW, and hopefully come back happier and healthier. All the best to my Speedy Pals this season, and a fitting reminder to everyone on hashtag World Mental Health Day that it's okay not to be okay sometimes. I thought that was really cool and really summed up the last few years of your life at that point. And it was a good segue into there's my favorite word again for this one is segue into the start of your career as a free rider, because you talk about a sport that bases success only on results in boardercross, whereas free riding, we put the free in free riding, get out there, enjoy riding POW, doing things for yourself. Yeah, there are competitions, obviously, like the Freeride World Tour. But it definitely, how was the 2018-19 season, and then 19-20 when you start in the 20 season, you've qualified for the Freeride World Tour. So after that Instagram post, how did the next couple years of your life go, and until you decided to really hit it up on the Freeride World qualifiers?
Yeah, I mean, that year I didn't make the national team, and I was devastated. I'd worked really hard the year before, and it felt like I was riding really well, but I wasn't getting the results, and that was really frustrating. And I was like, I'm going to take a year and just snowboard for myself. I'm not going to compete. And then kind of November, December rolled around, and I was like itching to do something. And so I signed up for some free ride competitions on a whim, and it was, like the best thing I could have done. I had so much fun, and just free ride is so different from boardercross, and it was a breath of fresh air. Really, I was just doing it for fun, and loving the experience and all the people I got to meet, and it was just awesome. I can't recommend it enough for anyone who's thinking of signing up for a qualifier. Just go do it, and you'll have a blast.
Awesome. So we're going to keep going on the comparing snowboardcross to the Freeride World Tour. How does being a Freeride World Tour snowboarder compare to doing the World Cup boardercross events, or they call it snowboardcross. I call it boardercross because when I grew up, it was boardercross, not snowboardcross. But anyhow, how do you compare the FWT to World Cup, the FIS World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, boardercross to FWT is so different. When I was doing World Cups for boardercross, it was everyone's kind of, you stay with your team, and everyone's kind of on their own program. And there's the event, and there's usually some of stuff around it. But at least when I was on the World Cups, there wasn't as much, I'm struggling to find the words. But the Freeride World Tour is so awesome in that, like, all the athletes hang out together, staying in the same hotel. And there's always, cool activities happening. It's more like traveling with the family, which is awesome. Where boardercross was a little more, everyone's kind of with their national team.
Okay, and I imagine the national team coaches aren't quite as cool as hanging with the whole FWT crew and Derek and and Lolo and all the rest of the crew from the webcast. A big difference.
Yeah, like the awesome part about the World Tour is you get to hang with the staff, the athletes, like people's friends and families. It's really, really relaxed, and you can kind of make your own schedule. I think it's less relying on other people's schedules, like coaches and teams and all that. So I love it. It's lots of fun.
Now, when you prep for an event, I mean, I'd imagine on the boardercross circuit, you're traveling with the national team. So basically you got a coach that's telling you, at this time, we're getting up in the morning, and then we're going to go train, then we're going to do this, we're going to do that, et cetera, et cetera. How about prepping for an FWT event? I mean, I guess you have the whole family. They're still telling you, there's going to be face check at this time, and there's going to be, but you're more on your own. I know some people have coaches, but as a general, I'm assuming it's still the same as when I was traveling, doing the webcasts. It's kind of freestyle as far as prepping for an event goes.
Yeah, on the World Tour, you're kind of on your own. There's a schedule that you're having to follow, but not a coach telling you at least for me, I don't have a coach, not someone telling me where I need to be and when. I'm really thankful for my experience racing because it gave me some structure and an idea of like how to prepare your mind and your body for competition. So I still have some routines I follow, but the freedom to do what I want, which is really nice. Yeah.
And speaking of, that preparation, is standing in the start gate for a boardercross event any different than standing in the start gate for a Freeride World Tour event? Or do you kind of the same things are going through, same thoughts going through your mind?
Katie Anderson, 3, 2, 1, drop in.
Truthfully, for me, I'm so much more relaxed standing in a World Tour start gate. Definitely there's butterflies and I'm nervous and I'm trying to remember my lines. But when I raced, I had a ton of fear, and like sometimes I would stand in the start gate and cry. I'd be really scared to drop in, and I've never had that in freeride. Even on Scary Faces, I'm way more relaxed and just like in a way better mental place, which feels great.
Awesome. So yeah, you spoke a little bit how obviously you're happy to have a bit of the structure from your boardercross background. How about from a technique standpoint? How does boardercross translate to free riding and competitive free riding?
I think that boardercross has only benefited me in that I know how to turn. I think like racing, you spend so much time just carving and being able to be a good technical rider, and I think that's really benefited me in freeride. And then, I just need to work on the freestyle aspects a little bit. But I feel like it's helped my snowboarding immensely, coming from the racing background.
Yeah, in the different categories, I'm going to go especially in the women's categories. We see in the ski women, for example, the girls with a solid alpine racing background and obviously lately a mogul skiing background are I'm not going to say more successful, but are very successful in the competitions. And boardercross background, obviously you're a world champion right now, and Marion Herty as well started out as a boardercross rider. She did do a bit of freestyle, but her really go-to before she switched to free riding was boardercross. So yeah, that technical side of things, I think definitely transfers to free riding as well. So, and what if I were to say that when I watch videos of you from the last couple of seasons, your riding style really reminds me of Marion Herty?
And Marion Herty, last rider of the day, taking the win.
Putting down a run that everyone's going to remember.
Yeah, I'm so inspired by Marion. She's amazing. And I would say, my riding style is fast. Usually I'm like, I just got to get to the bottom. So I tend to ride really fast. But I want to ride technical stuff, and I want to, push myself. And I'm so inspired by her.
And it's funny because she's really smooth, really fast, as are you. If anything, her freestyle, her grabs are a bit more technical, a bit smoother. But I think over the last 3 seasons, you've really progressed on that level as well. Last year, especially, we saw you trying to grab on pretty much every single jump. You mentioned obviously you need to work a little bit on your freestyle. Is that the only aspect of your riding that you think you need to work on? And as far as improvement goes, are you thinking of maybe getting a coach or working with a trainer, or what other riders do you ride with to help push your progression?
Yeah, I definitely, when I was first on the tour, my main thought was just trying to make it to the bottom. I had a hard time judging, my brain automatically thinks that I'm going to fall off when I hit a cliff. I can imagine all the ways I'm going to fall and not all the ways that I'm going to land it. So in the last couple of years, I've definitely, been really working on at least trying to get some sort of grab. Last year, it was a lot of safety grabs for myself just to keep me compact in the air. But yeah, this year, at the start of the year, my big goals were trying to get a variety of grabs, and I was feeling really confident in that. And then adding some spins, and I want to learn the backflip. I've made it very far in my career without ever doing a backflip, and I know I can do it. So that was my big goal this year. It didn't happen, obviously, but it's still a goal.
There's still time.
And then I like to ride. Yeah, totally. It's not over. It's gonna happen. I like to ride with people that are better than me, which makes me push myself to try new things. But really, just like getting out with friends and like when everyone's stoked, that makes me like, if everyone's stoked, you're stoked, you have a good time, you want to try new things. So, yeah.
So on tour, do you ride, do you just stick with the other snowboarders or do you ride with the skiers? Kind of how does it go on the down days? Because I know there's a lot of shredding that goes on the down days. So when the contest isn't on, who are you hanging with? Who are you riding with?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. I think that I kind of float around with who I hang out with, but definitely the snowboard women. We had big plans this year to all ride together, and it looks like they're riding together this year, which is sweet. In the past years, my first year on tour, I became close friends with Liv McNeil, and we spent a lot of time riding together. Same thing with Lily Bradley. But kind of whoever's stoked to get out and go, I will just join in.
Sounds good. Okay. Has tour life lived up to the hype? I know everybody. So what, you started doing the contests in 2019, 2020 season, you finish first in the Americas, you qualify for the tour. When you were on the FWQ and that was your goal, what did you think tour life was going to be like, and what was the reality?
For me, I'd say it lived up to the reality, if not more exciting. Truthfully, on the qualifiers, there was maybe some negative talk about the World Tour that I kind of took with a grain of salt. And then when I got on the tour, it was so much. It was way better than I expected, and just the community and the support from the staff and the athletes. It was all just. I've loved it. It's been really wonderful.
Awesome. And even though you've had a bit of a roller coaster ride, you finished second as a rookie, then you missed the cut in 2022, but you come back through the challengers. And 2023, you're the world champ, and then this year you're injured. So, it's great to hear you say that it's really, it not only does it live up to the hype, it's even better when there have been serious ups and downs in the 3 years or the 4 years that you've been competing.
Totally. I mean, I think that life has ebbs and flows. I'm very superstitious. Actually, I'm not very superstitious, a little bit stitious, but just only for snowboarding, not for the rest of life. But I kind of think that, someone told me when I was racing boardercross that you have a good year and then a bad year and a good year and a bad year. And that's kind of how my life's gone, a good year and then a bad year, and then it just keeps growing. Like the year that I didn't requalify and I went back to the challengers, it brought so much opportunity to me, and it was probably the best thing for me at the time. And I feel like for this injury, it's going to be the same thing. So,
I'm sure you're going to come back stronger. That down year, there was one high point, second place at Kicking Horse. How was it to stand on the podium at home in British Columbia, even if Fernie and Whistler are more or less your home resorts, I know, but in front of the whole, in front of the Canadian crowd.
Yeah, totally. I feel like since I've done Freeride, Kicking Horse has kind of become a second home. I spent a lot of time up here with the qualifiers, and yeah, when I got the second place, it was really awesome. My dad and my uncle were there cheering me on, and the rest of my family was in town cheering me on as well, which was really great. It was a little bit bittersweet. That year I'd gotten pretty sick while I was on the tour, so I was starting to feel a little bit better, and yeah, it felt nice to get on the podium at home.
Indeed. So in 2023, last year, obviously, you won 3 of the 4 competitions. Obviously, Verbier was canceled due to the avalanche, but you won in Baqueira-Barret and in Ordino-Arcalís, so the 2 events in the Pyrenees, then a 5th at Kicking Horse, but you were still number 1 in the world, and then you won Fieberbrunn, which turned out to be the last event of the season. So which of the 3 wins was the best? Or can you pick one?
Ooh, I don't know. I think that Fieberbrunn I felt the most. It was really obviously exciting to be the world champion with an event to go.
So Katie Anderson, 32,500 points. That is an unassailable lead, and we have a new freeride world champion in Katie Anderson.
But in hindsight, I think that might have been the best one.
Yeah, no, it was a really fluid run, and obviously pretty much in the fall line, stuck all your jumps. But I mean, 3 wins. Obviously, there were 3 of the best runs of the season last year, so that goes without saying. But I did watch them all, and I must say that Ordino was a smoker, so it was cool. And you came up with a new glove twirl celebration in Baqueira. I heard you were jealous of the skiers being able to spin their poles in the air. So was that just a spur of the moment thing, or was it something that you thought about in case you won, you had to have something good to celebrate?
Yeah, I'd joked about it before, I think with Derek, and yeah, I'm envious of the skiers that get to do the pole twirl, and just riding down in Baqueira, and I had a really cruisy run, and it was nice to just land on my feet after kind of a hectic morning. And the fans there they love freeride, and so there's so many people cheering. I don't know, I just did it without thinking about it, and it was fun.
That's awesome. So has any other run in your career, be it a competition run or not, given you the same?
Yeah, I think I had a run at Crystal Mountain for the Challengers 2 years ago, and I think that was one of my top competitions ever, and it was super fun, and yeah.
All right, awesome. How'd you do in that contest?
I think I won it.
Of course you did. So, all right. Keeping on the winning tack, winning a world title is an amazing achievement for any athlete, and for some, it's a life-changing experience. Has it been one for you?
I wouldn't necessarily say life-changing. I won the world tour, and then I went right back to work and kind of didn't think about snowboarding all summer. I was very focused on my job. And yeah, I'm hopeful that it's going to grow into more opportunities. So, yeah.
So for the moment, it hasn't changed anything from a sponsorship standpoint or a financial standpoint, or made just life as a pro athlete any easier for you?
I would say a little bit on the sponsorship side. But it hasn't made huge changes in my life. Definitely, like, the prize money was helpful. I finally have some savings, which is great. But yeah, it hasn't changed my life too drastically.
Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to a couple of your Instagram posts for a second. At the very end of the season, you posted, "What a dream. This one might take some time to feel real. Feeling immense gratitude being able to spend my time in the mountains with amazing people. I'm so inspired by everyone on tour. Finishing the season world champion is a dream, but the Freeride family of athletes, staff, supporters is the best part. Work hard, chase your dreams, but remember that results or scores don't determine your worth." And then in the middle of this summer, you wrote, "I won the world tour, and instead of being stoked, I felt incredibly low. I'm on a mission to be more connected, more attentive, more creative, more in love with life. What happened between last March and this end of July, early August for that mindset to or that feeling of elation from winning to turn into sounding a bit depressed?
Definitely sounds a bit depressed. Truthfully, I think that what you see on Instagram is not always reality for everyone. I was excited to win the
Fair
World
enough.
Tour.
That's
and then
why
as
we're
soon
here
as
doing this podcast.
Totally. Yeah. Kind of once I left Europe and came back here, I just, I don't know, I had a lot of time to think and a lot of things kind of sunk in. Even initially after winning in Fieberbrunn, I was like, I kind of felt like I hadn't worked hard enough and I hadn't earned it. And it's actually a really common thing. I've done a little bit of research on it and some therapy, but pretty common in like business or anything where people have big goals. As you're chipping away at your goals, you get little hits of dopamine. And then as you get closer to them, you get like a little bit less and less. And then sometimes when you reach your goal, you don't get the like dopamine hit that you're expecting. And I think it was a little bit of that. I kind of, wasn't really feeling that much. And then, yes, kind of from last year in like February, maybe, I got a journal and I started journaling, which was huge for me, getting my thoughts on paper. And then I went to It's Tits, which is an event that they had at Sunshine. And there was an event called the Mental Meetup, where all the ladies got together and talked about mental health, and that definitely like spurred a lot of change for me. So actually in the last kind of since May till now, I've been working a lot on my mental health and feeling way better than I have in years. But yeah, definitely on a mission to be in love with life.
Awesome. And mentally stronger and physically stronger for next season. I think it's look out, ladies, for 2025. Katie Anderson's going to be coming back on a mission.
That's the goal. I'm coming for you.
All right. Awesome. You spoke about the prize money. The Freeride World Tour doesn't really talk about prize money that much, but there is equal prize money for men and women now on tour, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But how much do you win for winning a competition? What's first place worth?
Ooh, I don't know if you can quote me on this one. I think first place is $4,500, something like that.
Okay, all right, all good.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I don't
Someone
know.
might have to look it up.
Changed throughout the years, so gonna have to go check out your bank statements, Katie.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Other women world champion snowboarders like Anne-Fleur Marxer and Marion Erty have been responsible for quite a few advances in gender equality within the FWT organization. Equal prize money since 2020, as we just mentioned, the establishment of the Gender Equality Commission, and establishing women freeride clinics at all FWT competitions since 2022. Do you feel the fruits of their labor? And do you think there's still more work to do?
So things will change with time, but no, things will change if we make it change. And that's showing how important it is for all of us, each of us, to participate in reforming the system that we're concerned about.
Definitely, like all that they've done is so amazing. And yeah, I think it's, equal prize money, having the women's events is awesome. And I think there's still more that we can do. Last year, a group of the women got together and had a discussion with the Freeride World Tour about how we can continue to grow our category and just see a bigger field for snowboard women across the board. So in the in the qualifiers as well as at the World Tour stage. We'd love to see just a few more people in our category so that there's a bigger field of competition and more chances for progression, because I think that's really what it really drives progression, and I think there's still some growth to happen there.
So in the FWQ competitions, the field is limited as well. The number of entrants is limited in every single category. Okay. And obviously, there's the least amount of the smallest category is women's snowboarding. Yeah, from my understanding, it's a little different between North America and Europe, or I guess Region 1 and Region 2. But it's kind of based on events, and there's I think big efforts to have our category grow. But percentage-wise, of the population that skis and snowboards, there's more male skiers out there than there are women snowboarders. Having a category sizes that are representative of our population, or maybe a little bit bigger than the overall demographic, I guess, just to be able to grow our categories, I think is huge. Okay, so that's the solution that you ladies on tour, I'm assuming you're talking about the Freeride World Tour women's snowboarders, is if we open it up and make it more accessible to more women on the Freeride World qualifier, and obviously therefore on the challenger events, that's gonna raise the level of riding and be able to make the women's snowboarding category, maybe instead of having 6, having 8 ladies, or even approaching the 12 that there are for men's snowboarding and women's skiing. Obviously, maybe not the 22 that there are in men's skiing, but the goal would be to have maybe an 8-woman or a 10-woman field on the Freeride World Tour events. Yeah, that's definitely our goal, and one of the things that we proposed. Kind of myself and Michaela Davis-Meehan, started an idea and then reached out to the other snowboard women and other athletes in different categories, as well as people from the challengers, and asked people for input of what would help us grow our field. But definitely a field of 8, I think, would, on the World Tour side, would really help push progression. And So do you think just by opening the number of spots, that would make the women's snowboarding a little more spectacular than it is actually? I mean, would you agree, and this might be the most controversial question that I'm going to throw at you during this podcast, but is it fair to say that the women's snowboarding is less spectacular than the other 3 categories? Ooh, that's a toughie. I don't know if there's any good answers to this one. I think that maybe a little bit, in that you'll have a good idea of who's going to be on the podium or who has a chance. If there's only 6 riders versus having 22 riders, there's a little bit less variety. The category would, I think, give people more options to have to push your riding, and have to do something that's cool or above and beyond, to put on a good show, because you're not guaranteed that podium. Essentially, if you're half the field, you have a 50% chance of getting on there if there's only 6 women. Yeah, and if you've seen the 3 go in front of you and 2 of them have fallen, you have a pretty good idea that if you ride conservatively, but you stay on your feet, that you're going to finish first, second, or third. Fair enough. Totally. I was speaking. I think I mentioned this in the podcast with Jackie Passo as well. But I was speaking with Julie Zell, who was the first ever woman to win the Extreme in the first edition. And she said that she watches the webcasts nowadays and she yells at the screen because she thinks that there's a lack of technique from some of the women's field, that when she was riding, all the ladies came from a race background. A lot of them were doing slalom. They were bashing gates. It was the beginning of boardercross. And basically their edge control was better, and therefore they were better in in the steep Freeride World Tour conditions. Do you agree that that's maybe is there something from a technical standpoint that makes it that the women's snowboarders maybe have a rougher time sometimes? Or I really like your argument though. Now that I say that, and I'm reading my question, but I like your argument about the fact if there's only 6 ladies, you got a 50% chance of making it on the podium. So you can ride conservatively and know you have a good shot at being first, second, or third.
Yeah, I mean, you put me in a little bind with this question. But I
Sorry
think
about that.
It really depends on your background, and that's okay. I'll still answer it. I think like having the technique to be able to ride the Freeride World Tour terrain is huge. And definitely, having the experience riding steep terrain and having edge control and just the technique to be able to get down and make it look smooth. I do know, like, from watching the tour in the past as a spectator or this year watching it, it's it's so easy to yell at the screen when you're not there and you're not doing it. And a lot of times, the conditions, there's so much at stake, or not at stake, so much that's factored in, like what the snow conditions are like if you're nervous, etc., that I think doesn't always give you the full picture of the women's skills and abilities up there.
No, fair enough. Definitely. And just one last question about the snowboard women. It seems that a lot of the ladies field come to the Freeride World Tour later in their careers than in the other 3 categories. With the exception maybe of Marion Lerty, we don't see many of the snowboard women junior world champions stepping straight onto the FWQ and qualifying for the FWT, in their first season on tour. There's no Marcus Gogans or Max Palms or Maxime Chablots, just to talk about some of the men's skiers that have stepped straight from the juniors into the elite world tour and really performed. Why do you think that is? Or is it the same reasons we've been talking about, or is there?
I think there's lots of factors at play there. Like at least I know from when I was that age and doing boardercross, there's a huge drop in people who are participating. Maybe just, you have some people choose to go to school and that's their priority, or some people do both, which I know is challenging. Not for me personally, or it would be challenging for me. Doing school and snowboarding was not on my brain at that age. But I think that is I think you see lots of women and men, but you see lots of people, when you're going from juniors to qualifiers, like kind of having to make a choice of what they want to do in their future. And lots of people choose to go to school, which is great. Maybe that's why people come back later in life. I'm not sure. But I also think from an exposure and backing point, the Marcus Gogans and Maxine Chablot, there may be more exposure on their end, and I think the more the exposure we can get for our junior athletes, I think the more likely they are to stick with snowboarding and to transfer right over to the qualifiers and then to the World Tour. I'd imagine that there's lots of different factors that go into that.
Indeed, that's a very good point. If there was more industry support for the young girls that want to make a career out of freeriding, there would definitely be more of them that would be having a go at the FWQ challengers and making it on the tour. So maybe that's something for any of the team managers or the marketing managers from the snow sports industry out there listening to this podcast to take on board. I think in one of your Instagram posts you mentioned mentioned how rough it is to lose half the field or almost half the field at the mid-season qualification cut. What do you think of the actual tour structure, the way it is today with the cut?
Yeah, I mean, I think the 50% cut is, you feel it more when there's only 6 people in your category. And obviously the cut is really hard no matter what category you're in, because it is generally 50% of the field is gone. Yeah, I liked that this year there was on the schedule 4 events before the cut. I think that makes it a little bit more, I'm struggling to find the right words. It's like so easy to have 2 bad days on the World Tour. Just, yeah, I think by having 4 events instead of 3, it gives you more of a chance to show your best riding and not just get unlucky or lucky, either way. But yeah, I think that playing with that is sweet. I liked the year that there was the 2 runs in Fieberbrunn. I thought that was a cool change of competition format. But yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities to play with the format. Like when you look at natural selection, they've done lots of different things with their format, and I think it brings out a variety of different riding, and it's fun for the spectators as well.
Yeah, that is true, natural selection. Having said that, since it is an invitational, it's easier for them to play around with it because they don't have the tour structure, and it's hard for people to have a vision of junior to qualifier to challenger to Freeride World Tour if every second season there's a major change to the competition format. Since you brought it up, how do you think it's backcountry freestyle compared to big mountain free riding, but do you think there's an overlap?
I think kind of what you said before, like of it being an invitational event, it's kind of, I feel like they're 2 separate things, like very similar, but yeah, definitely one's a little more freestyle versus big mountain. And I think that they're currently so different that we don't see a ton of overlap. Yeah.
Is it something that you'd like to participate in? If you were to get an invitation, would you take it?
With where I'm at right now, like I definitely want some more freestyle under my belt. I would take it for the stops that are like Alaska would be sweet. I like some of the more big mountain faces where I don't know what I would do in Jackson Hole on the venue that they had there. So I'm not totally sure. I mean, I'd probably take it because it would be a really cool opportunity. But yeah.
Cool, good deal. One last question about competition. Do you hope that free riding will be an Olympic discipline one day?
Ooh, controversial. I don't know. I'm really torn. The thing I love about freeride is that it's like, I don't know, it's not so strict, and there's like, it's people just having fun skiing and snowboarding. Is the part that I love about it. It's a little bit more like of a cowboy sport. So I would hate to see that side of it lost, and like the community side lost if it becomes an Olympic sport. But I can also say that I'm sure there'd be lots of opportunities if it did become an Olympic sport. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it.
Fair enough. We'll leave it with that. What is your relationship with snowboarding?
Ooh, I mean, snowboarding's the love of my life. I think I love it. I had a few years kind of when I was racing to when I had a couple of years where I wanted to be out snowboarding, and I'd go out and snowboard, and I didn't have a great time. I wasn't super happy. I didn't have the joy and love for it. But definitely in the past few years, I love all things about snowboarding. I love getting out, and, a good POW day with your friends is amazing. But yeah, I love the opportunities it's brought me, and a community at, in Fernie and in Canada and in the whole world, I think is so amazing. So definitely, an evolving relationship with snowboarding as my career's changed and my life's changed. But it's always there. It's a constant.
Awesome. Really good answer. And snowboarding has taken you to some amazing places around the world. What have some of your favorites been?
Ooh, that's hard. There's so many. I was so lucky with boardercross to get a chance to go down to Patagonia, and we did a lot of, I think I've been to South America 4 times, and I've loved it. I've snowboarded in Turkey and on a hill in Moscow, and I've been to China, like really awesome opportunities. I don't know what my favorite would be.
No, that's all good. So what do you think which one was Bun Bun's favorite, and who is Bun Buns?
Ooh, yes. Mr. Bun Buns is my stuffed bunny, and he comes everywhere with me. He's not here for the podcast, unfortunately. He's probably pretty upset about that. Tricky though. I think Bun Bun's maybe favorite was when I went to Turkey, our flight got diverted because we couldn't land. And we ended up landing at an airport like 2 hours from the Syrian border, so quite close when they were in active conflict. And we got a full military escort, and they drove us 11 hours across the country. And Bun Buns got to sit on like a big armored vehicle, and he thought that was pretty cool for sure.
That's awesome. Yes, and was Bun Bun's first trip with you when you went to New York to the Big Apple? That was the first one that was documented on Instagram.
Oh yeah, probably the first documented Instagram trip. But he came everywhere with me when I was a kid. So, but probably his first international trip for Buns.
Awesome. Okay, so you're from British Columbia. Obviously, people know what a professional freerider is there. But do you still get weird looks from people when they ask you, what do you do for a living? And you say, I'm a professional freerider? Or do you say that you're a camp counselor, camp organizer? How do you respond to that question? What's your job?
Ooh, yeah, tricky. If people ask me what my job is, I'll say that, I'm an outdoor educator, camp director. But if people ask me what I do, I say that I'm a snowboarder, or competitive snowboarder. There's definitely lots of people who don't totally know what freeride is. Even lots of my friends and my family still kind of think that I race. And we just kind of roll with that. But sometimes you have to do a bit of explaining to describe what freeride is.
Yeah, indeed. So what do you tell them?
I tell them to, basically we get dropped at the top of a mountain, or we hike up to the top of the mountain, and then you're going to find the most fun way down or the most creative way down with, drops and cliffs and powder.
Do they think you're crazy?
Yes, lots of people think that it's crazy. I know that my boss, Shauna, watches the videos and thinks it's crazy.
All right, that's awesome. Okay, we're getting towards the end here, but I've still got a few more. We always ask a few questions for the gear geeks out there. First of all, are you a gear geek? Do you really get involved with what is under your feet, design process with the brands you work with, like Solomon, or do you just trust your team managers to give you the right stuff to ride every season?
A little bit of trust. I definitely look at what is available. I'm not really involved in making products, but right now I'm really stoked on what I'm riding. I ride I ride a Solomon High Path.
Contests, or there we go.
Yeah,
and is that your go-to board for everything?
Yeah, I've been riding the Solomon High Path for a couple years, and I love it. It's super fun. I would say it's my daily driver, but especially for contests. But sometimes I switch it up and have more of a pow board, or ride I have a rumble fish for park riding, but I would say the High Path can do everything.
All right, cool. Okay, we're going off into the completely random stuff now. You play a musical instrument, violin, fiddle?
Ooh, close. I play the cello, which some people don't know what it is. It's kind of most people know what a bass is, and it's kind of like a smaller than a bass, in between a bass and a viola, kind of.
Are you good?
I mean, now I would say I'm average. For a long time, I either wanted to be a snowboarder or I wanted to be a cellist, and I wanted to go to Juilliard. But I'd say I'm not naturally talented at the cello. It takes me a lot of work. And I haven't played as much lately as I would like to, but I do love it.
Okay, let me ask that a different way. When you bust out the cello and you start playing, does your dog hang out and listen to you? Does he howl at the moon, or does he run into the other room?
Dog would hang out and listen for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, and you are a dog person. I've gathered from your Instagram posts.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this lately, actually. I would say I'm a pet person, but I do love a dog, and I also love a cat. So right now we only have one pet, Tigger the cat, and he's a real sweetie. So I feel like I'm becoming more of a cat person. Good
deal. And the guinea pig? I saw a few guinea pig pictures in there, but I didn't know what the deal with that was.
Yeah, as kids we had guinea pigs. We got 2, and surprise, they had babies. And one of the babies, Prinkles, like sprinkles without the S. Prinkles, she lived to be 7 years old, which is pretty old for a guinea pig. And yeah, they were very fun to have. Yeah.
Awesome. What's the Kootenay way?
Ooh, the Kootenay way or the Kootenay life. I think just a way of living in the Kootenays, the East and the West Coots, a little more relaxed. Everyone's kind of doing their thing. Adventurous, I would say, is the Kootenay life.
All right. Awesome. Are you still rocking the nose ring? And did it hurt when you got it?
Ooh, yeah. I still have a nose ring. I think I'll have it for life. I think I got it when I was 17. It did hurt when I got it, but it doesn't grow over. When I broke my pelvis, I remember a few things because I had a concussion, and giving it to our team physio, like, here, have this. And then I didn't get another nose ring for like 2 months, and it just goes right back in there. So I kind of think it's never gonna grow over.
Awesome. Was that a rebellious thing, or were mom and dad totally cool with it?
I would say it was like minorly rebellious. I definitely tested the waters to ask if I could do it. But I had to wait till I could go do it without parent permission. So maybe a little bit of rebellion.
Awesome. Okay. Any advice for the next generation of young shredders coming up?
I think to go have fun is the main thing, and to believe in yourself, and, set big goals, and don't be afraid to chase them, even if other people think they're crazy. But above all, have fun and love what you're doing, no matter what it is.
Perfect. Is there any subject you'd like to talk about that we haven't covered yet? And if not, I would just say, do you have any last words?
I feel like we've covered a lot. I don't know. Last words, maybe thank yous to my mom and my dad. Obviously, they've supported me through a lot, and they've gotten lots of calls to say their daughter's in the hospital. So I'm so appreciative of everything that they've done to support me. And then as well to Mike and Joey at The Choice. They've supported me for like 12 years, I think, 10 years. And then, all my sponsors for believing in me, and all my friends for sticking by me even when I'm not around.
Fantastic. Katie Anderson, thank you very, very much. This has been a very enjoyable, just over an hour-long chat. And best of luck with the rehab. And we can't wait to see you back on tour in 2025.
Sweet. Thanks so much for having me.